where they are?
No.
I didn't get a notification today for the
Yeah, I didn't either.
platform. I had to like check it. Maybe that's why.
That's weird. I posted it exactly the same as I always do. Could you text your people?
I was just talking to Audek too. He was getting ready to get on.
That's weird. Yeah, let me double check to make. Yeah, it's up. Yeah, text your people for me, please.
Yeah, Ty, you just did in the group chat, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey everybody, today please update your stock project, and then we're going to talk about a little bit of vocabulary, stocks in lieu or stock options, which I think, have you guys heard those phrases before?
No.
Okay. We'll talk about stock options for various jobs that you might be offered. And it's important to consider like what that means, how that works, and why it might be good or bad.
Hello, sorry I'm late. For some reason I didn't get an email today.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely posted it. I don't know why it's not up.
Yeah, I don't know. I only found out because Tatiana said something.
Yeah, I asked them to hit the group chat.
Yeah, that's the only way I knew.
Yeah, same with my own classmates. Yeah, we just have one fat group chat for each class where we complain about homework. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, update your stocks. That's really all we're doing for this part right now. And then we'll talk a little bit about stock options. And then today we're going to finish our lecture on the marginal tax rate. And then I'm going to give you all an Excel homework assignment. It'll be short if you've been following along and building out your Excel sheet the way I told you to. I'm going to have you all calculate some marginal tax rates for some theoretical situations, just so that you get a better look at the effective tax rate based on like what your income might be.
Oh yeah, Mr. Rob, based off of what we did yesterday, no, like we did like scenario A and scenario B.
Yeah.
After I automatically like just did scenario A, and I just plugged in, like I copied it and I moved it, like made another one. And then once I changed the values, it automatically just gave it to me.
So that works because the percentages are the same. The only thing that you would have to change is the column of the range of the tax brackets, which isn't doing any math. That's just like labeling or whatever, because the size of the tax brackets are twice as big for a married couple, but the percentages at those low brackets are the same.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Just getting my spreadsheets set up for today. Okay, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna update my stocks. Not my real stocks, but my fake little project here. I also like waking up every morning and checking the health of my actual stock portfolio and being like, oh boy, what am I going to talk about with the calculus kids today? What horrible thing happened to my money that I now have to explain? Anyway, I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it down to the end. And I'm going to date it accordingly. So I'm going to edit this. Rename 4/23. And the first thing that I'm going to update is my money from yesterday. So yesterday's value was 10,498.58.
Mr. Rob?
Yep.
Real quick before you update yours, can you tell me what the value of Amazon was? Because I changed it without copying it, so I'm gonna have to copy it right now.
Oh, the value of Amazon yesterday during class time?
Yeah, please.
Yesterday's, it's on the spreadsheet. Yesterday, one share of Amazon around class time was trading at 2,368.28 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so now I'm going to go through real quick and use my second computer to update this. So Amazon's up a little bit as of this morning. Ooh, Novavax is also, come on, stop. Novavax is also up a little bit since yesterday, even though it's down since this morning. Google's up a little bit since yesterday also. How's Sony doing? I hella don't trust this Sony stock. Both Sony and Microsoft are supposed to be having video game launches this holiday season. And with the COVID stuff all crazy, I don't trust that those console launches are going to go right. I might actually sell off this Tesla stock, the Sony stock on Monday, just so that I can get out of this before it starts to go bad once they announce something crazy like the PlayStation is $600. If it's something wild like that, or if it's like the PlayStation 5 is getting delayed until next summer, either one of those will like crush that stock price.
Isn't the PlayStation 5 already going to be like 500 minimum?
The price is up in the air, and this is always true whenever you have competing companies. Basically, Microsoft and Sony are in a freaking staring contest, waiting for the other one to blink, so that as soon as one of them announces the console price, the other one will either match or go lower. There's no guarantee on any of that price. And also, the price of video game consoles is basically impossible to guess, even based on the components, because video game console companies are willing to sell their consoles at a loss. So even if it costs, like, let's say that it actually costs, okay, when it comes to profits, right, you want to sell something for more than you make it so that you can make money. So like if you want to make money off of the Nintendo Switch, you produce a Nintendo Switch, they cost about $220 in parts, and then you sell that to people for $300 and you're making $80 profits. So you're making a profit on the console. You know that over history, a bunch of video game consoles were actually sold at a loss. Like
Wait,
the
why?
PlayStation, yeah. So the PlayStation 3, when it came out, when I was in college, like my freshman year, the PS3 launched at $400, but it cost Sony $450 to make one of them. So for every launch PS3 they sold, they lost $50. You explain to me, how does that make sense? Because that is a reality of certain industries, and why sometimes you'll see a stock price dip,
New
but over the
games?
long run, it makes sense. Say it again?
New games?
Yeah, because they're not going to make all of the profit off the console. They sell you one console, but then over the life of that console, they sell you 10 or 12 games, and the profit margin on one game is huge, man. You stamp that disc, put it in a box, and get it out the door for $60. But in reality, that disc costs a few dollars, the case costs a few dollars, and then you have money that goes towards licensing third-party companies to make games like that. But yo, there's way more money to be made off of games once you already have the box inside of people's houses.
Wait, but PS4 doesn't sell you that, do they?
What?
Like PlayStation wouldn't sell you that. I don't get how that works. If the company makes a game, that doesn't mean PlayStation is selling it to you, or is that how it works?
No, that is how it works. So if you want to sell a video game that works on PlayStation or whatever, if you want to sell a video game that works on PlayStation, you have to pay a licensing fee to Sony, dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you agree that like when this disc sells, some cut of it is not going to go to you. Some cut of it goes directly to Sony corporate. And that's why a lot of indie games come out on PC first, because the amount of money that Steam charges is a lot smaller than the amount of money that a video game company charges, that the three big boys charge. Or if you make a PC game and you just sell it directly through a website, you don't have to share that money with anybody.
But is it a royalty or like a flat fee?
It's different case to case. So it's different case to case. I couldn't tell you. I guarantee some of them are flat. Like if like all of that stuff is typically not public information because of the way that the contracts work. But you know how like Sony will give away a video game for free if you're a member on PlayStation Gold or whatever?
Yeah.
That stuff, they are paying the video game companies for every single person who downloads it, and that's copy by copy. So the more people that choose to download that free game, then Sony will pay the video game company that they licensed it from money per unit. But depending on the size of a video game, a licensing contract may be copy by copy, or it may just be flat. So that, you know, if you're a video game company, you want to try and get that flat one so that once you clear it, all of the rest of the profit is yours. It's complicated, man. That stuff gets wicked. Anyway, I'm up 2.6% today. How about y'all? Anybody out there making gains?
Barely
I'm
up.
4%.
Tight.
Mr. Rob.
Yeah.
For Novavax, I you know how I said I like took out all my money and put it in one company?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did that to Novavax, and I'm making good money now. But when do you think is a good time I should like pull it out?
I don't know. Nobody does. It's literally gambling. You make a bet and you're either right or wrong, and you either make money or you don't, and you regret it or you don't. So you're just guessing.
Shoot.
You would Google some information about Novavax, try and read all of it. I mean, that's how people do research for the sake of like investing. Like that is the job of investing firms to do, is to do the research and figure out, hey, is this smart or is this dumb? And am I about to like bust my company here? The other thing that you want to do is you always want to also do opposition research. So if they're like in that vaccine field, right, you also want to look at the other companies also working on the vaccine, because that news will also affect Novavax stock price.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that everybody has gotten a chance to update their stock product or projects. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about stocks being offered in lieu or stock options. So have y'all ever heard these phrases, like either in real life or probably on TV? Yes, no, we've heard the phrase stock option or we haven't?
No.
No.
Okay. So the deal with stock options, let's see, so 7 of y'all, take attendance real quick. Cedric. Okay. Oh, there he is that if you work in a new company, like a startup, or early on, they might not have enough cash on hand to pay you cash. So instead of the people that you work with paying you money in the form of like a paycheck, instead, there are cases where a company will offer to pay you with stock. Now, because of the way that like the legality of that stuff is, normally stock options have to be that. They have to be optional. It's something you agree to. It's not something that they can just switch to. But it's basically offering part of salary in the form of stock.
Mr. Rob,
So, yes?
the notification for joining the meeting, it didn't pop up for me. Like as of 2 minutes ago, it just came up.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, and that's why I
Same.
asked people to get in the group chat, so I won't mark anybody tardy today.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't get the notification either.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
So, yeah. So instead of being offered all of your money in salary, for example, here is a scenario that one of my homies was offered recently. He could work for a tech company in San Jose, and these were the two options he was given. He either would have started at 70,000, more or less base salary, right? Or 40,000 with $35,000 offered in stock. And both of these are offered as salary, so you don't get all of that investment money all up front. Either $70,000 split up over 12 paychecks, or $40,000 split up over 12 paychecks, along with $35,000 in stocks given to you over 12 payments.
Mr. Rob,
Yep.
can you sell the stocks and buy whatever you want?
So there's always a cool down period. So you could sell the stocks and buy whatever you want, but usually you have to wait 1 year after the stock is acquired until you can sell it off if you're given a stock option. So like, here's the cost benefit here, I guess, or whatever. This is definitely $70,000. This is $75,000 in value upfront, right? But what's the risk here? What could happen?
It could go down to 40,000.
Yeah, it could go down to anything, right? If that stock value busts, then taking value in the company was the wrong answer. Now, of course, it could also go the other way, which is where investing in stocks, no matter what, is gambling, because there were people who worked at Apple in the early days who were offered stocks instead of money. And every single one of those people who took that option, those people are now rich beyond their wildest dreams, right? As I'll remind you guys, if you had $300 worth of Apple stock in the year 1999 and you held onto it, that $300 worth of company interest is now worth about $70,000 or more. So if you were working at Apple in the mid 90s and they were paying you in stock and you held onto that stock into the modern age, yeah, that value has exploded. It is all a risk. I just, yeah, wanted to mention that this was a thing. If you are ever offered pay in the form of stock options, I would look at the stock in that company and its health long-term over time, and then talk to a fiduciary before you make your decision. Is this okay? Are there any questions here?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So let me move the pieces on my screen around a little bit so that we can finish the marginal tax rate examples that we were talking about yesterday. So just as a quick reminder, in case you weren't here or you didn't write down these notes, we were looking at these three scenarios, right? We were looking at a person who is single and working and earning $42,500 per year of real income, right? Taxable income. So this is just what the number says on their salary before they take it home. And then B, we looked at the marginal tax rate on a married couple making $160,000 per year combined income. And this is taxed exactly the same, whether or not you have two people who are married and they're both making 80,000, or you have two people who are married and one person is making 20,000, or sorry, 40,000, and the other person's making 120, or even one person not working and the other person making the entire take home of 160,000. That gets taxed the same for married couples, and it tends to be a better deal than having those two things taxed independently. And we looked at the effective tax rate there. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the actual tax that you pay is a combination of both state and federal. And we're only calculating federal tax rates based on the federal marginal income tax rate. And so, even though we've already removed all of those taxes from these people's take-home pay, the amount of money removed is even bigger than that, because you also have to remove the amount of money for the state, which, depending on which state you live in, could be high, could be low. I think there are a few states with no state income tax, which is wild to me, because that means that those states' entire operating budget comes from sales tax. But yeah, this is just the federal part. So since we live in California, you would also have to do this stuff for the California income tax, which is not trivial. It's a little bit less than the federal income tax. But yeah, this is just one part of the story. So let's go ahead and look at these two, and we'll do a recap of what those numbers are and how they're calculated. And then we're also going to do this scenario down here. For somebody who is single and making $18,000 of income, which is like the money you would make waiting tables if you waited tables while you were in college part-time. Not enough to live off of, but enough to maybe cover rent. But this person in this scenario is single and only making a little bit of money from working, but most of their money comes from a trust fund. I don't know if y'all know what trust funds are. Do you guys know what a trust fund is? Yes, no, maybe.
No.
No? I mean, have you
Like
heard
a
the phrase
person who
trust fund
Yeah,
before?
I heard the phrase, but I don't know like how it works.
Okay.
It's like when someone holds some property of yours on behalf of you.
Yeah, so basically, kind of the same way how like, you know, an attorney can legally act on your behalf because they have your power of attorney, like they are a legal representative of you. If you want to set up a trust fund, right, like if you end up highly successful and you end up with this fat chunk of cash and you're just like, you know, I want to give this to my kid, but I don't trust my kid. I want to give my kid this money, but I don't believe that they're going to do the right things with it. I'm afraid if I give my kid this $10 million, they're just going to blow it on whatever, and then all of that hard-earned money will be gone. So you can set up a trust fund, and what that does is you are basically giving that money to an investing group. That investing group is going to invest that $10 million wisely and safely, like safe, boring, slow growth investments that are sure to increase, but you know, most likely won't go bust. And they take the interest made on that investment and they pay that out to the kid. So if there's a $20,000 trust fund, like a year going to some kid, that's because somewhere in an office in New York, there is a multi-million-dollar investment that is paying out interest to this kid legally. And usually trust funds or whatever, they can mature. So if you have like a large multi-million-dollar trust fund set up and you're like, hey, I want this interest to go to this kid until he's 30, and then after he's 30, he gets control of the whole thing. Then at the age of 30, whenever that person gets that old, then they will be able to touch the capital, the $10 million that this is coming from. But yeah, usually trust funds are a way that you can like give somebody an investment, but make sure that they don't ruin it. And so, yeah, we're going to look at this case where you have a rich college kid who, you know, they have a trust fund, but they are also working part-time. What is this person's effective tax rate? Like I said, give me 1 second here. I need to move the little pieces of my window around because sharing two screens side by side isn't the easiest thing to do. Oh, nope, that's the stock project. Okay. Let me share my screen. So here are the two marginal tax scenarios that we talked about yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about, first, what the deal is if you are making $42,500 a year, which is a reasonable medium income amount of money that you could be making out of college. If that's what you're making at your first gig out of college, good job to you. But nonetheless, we went through and we calculated the marginal tax rate on this stuff. And so in the first bracket, we have 10% tax rate. In the second bracket, we have a 12% tax rate. In the third bracket, we have a 22% tax rate. Now, this does not mean that just because you live in the 22% tax bracket that the federal government takes 22% of your money. If you go through and you apply these percentages to the brackets of money in which they apply, you are actually being taxed approximately 12.3% by the federal government because most of your money is being taxed at these lower rates, and only that last $3,000 is being taxed at 22%. This is to say that you will be offered a job in your future, but you should know that that number isn't the money that you take home. This person's actual take-home pay is $42,500 minus this $5,208. And so this person's take-home pay before they get their tax refund or whatever is about $37,000 of take-home pay. And that's, you know, before the state also takes their chunk, which would probably be another 1 or 2, depending on the situation. So this person's take-home pay before their tax deductions would be like $35,000, $36,000. Is that okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then option B here, I'm sorry, example B here, a married couple making about 160,000, which again, you know, two people making 80 each, two professionals living together, that's not that unreasonable. We go through and we do the same thing just to show that the marginal tax rate brackets for a married couple it's the same percentages, but the brackets are wider. So if you're single, you can only earn $9,700 at the 0%, I'm sorry, at the 10% tax bracket. But once you're married, you and your spouse can earn up to $19,400 taxed at the low 10% tax rate. So typically, getting married makes your tax situation better. It makes it so that you pay less monies. But nonetheless, this couple's making a lot of money. So they have a lot of money in the 22% tax bracket. And again, we go through and we calculate. And so they have this much money in the 10% bracket, this much money in the 12% bracket, this much money in the 22% bracket. And overall, they pay an effective federal tax rate of about 16.8%. It's a higher percent because they make more money, but this is less money than they would be paying if they were paying taxes both as single people. And again, the take home here is that after they earn their $160,000 of income, you have to then subtract the taxes, which means their take home pay a year is like 130,000-ish after all is said and done in terms of taxes. But of course, you would get some of that money back if you had things to deduct. Like if you were paying off student loans still, the government would give you back money. If you had kids or other dependents, like people who rely on you to take care of them, that would also like give you a larger refund back of that tax money. This is like the worst possible scenario. And so for this last one over here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to make a new sheet, and this is for example C. Our college kid who was lucky enough to have some sort of inheritance, some moderate trust fund paying out $20,000 a year. And so to do this, it's important to know that money made from working, right, things that end up on W-2s or things that end up on 1099s are taxed at a different rate than money made from investment. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to consider this person's income that they make from working. So same as before, I'm just going to bring over my columns here. So whoop. Bracket, tax rate, income in bracket, taxes on bracket. So this person makes $18,000 a year in food service. And so we have to consider that first bracket, which is 0 to $9,700. It has a 10% tax rate. And this person is making $18,000, so they have $9,700 in that bracket. And so the taxes paid on it are going to be equal to the tax rate, then multiplied by the income in that bracket. So $970 of that first $9,700 are going to be taken out to pay for Social Security and defense. Next bracket is going to be 9701 through 39,475. And how much money does this person make in that next tax bracket? Who can subtract?
I don't get what you mean. Like subtract the 9701, that part from 9700 or the second row?
You tell me, how much money does the person in scenario C make? How much money does the person in scenario C make? Who wrote it down? Nobody?
Is it 29?
29,774.
What? No, scenario C. How much, what is that person's income in that like scenario? We wrote it down yesterday in the notes. I showed it again today in case you missed it. Anybody? Because without understanding the parameters of the scenario, then none of this calculation makes sense.
Single, 18,000 income, 20,000 trust fund.
Thank you. So this person is making $18,000 a year on their W-2 from wages and tips working at some sort of cafe or restaurant. So they have $9,700 in the first tax bracket. How much money do they have in the next tax bracket? How much money do they make working?
18,000.
So if they have $9,700 in bracket 1, how much money do they have in bracket 2? How do you make those two numbers add up to 18,000?
Just subtract.
And what do you get?
$8,300.
They make $8,300 in income bracket 2, which is taxed at a rate of 12%. And to see how much taxes they pay on this income, it's this times that. So in that second bracket, they are paying $996 of their income on that. So now we can calculate up the total federal income taxes that they're paying on that second bracket. So that's going to be equal to the sum of all of this. So they're paying $1,966 in income tax a year. So now we can use this to calculate their effective tax rate, which of course is going to be equal to 100 multiplied by the fraction of the taxes that they are paying divided by their total income. And like I said yesterday, the effective tax rate that you pay is always going to be somewhere between 10% and whatever your top bracket of income is. So this person's only paying between 10% and 12% tax on their income. So their effective income tax rate should be about 11-ish, right? It's always going to be in between those two percentages. And so this college student right now, with this stuff included, has an effective tax rate of 10.9% because they have more money in the 10% bracket than they do in the 12% bracket. So when you're a college student and you're making college student amounts of money, the effective tax rate that you pay is pretty low. It's not that bad. Plus, a lot of the stuff about being a college student is deductible. Things like school supplies or textbooks, keep all of those receipts, you can add it up, and you can get some of this money back. However, that's not this college kid's entire financial situation. What was that last part that I said they had coming in?
20,000 trust fund.
They have a $20,000 a year trust fund. So every month they're getting a payment of $20,000 over 12. They're getting $1,600 a month of supplemental income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let's go ahead and look at the capital gains tax rate, which are the tax rates paid on long-term capital gains, which is to say the tax rate paid on, money from investments, things like trust funds. What is the long-term capital gain tax rate on that first bracket there?
0 to 39,375.
So this stuff right here in the Excel sheet, this is income. This is income and income only. So for this next part, let's go ahead and consider what it is on this investment. So this
0%.
First bracket, this first bracket is 0 to 39,375. The tax rate on that bracket is 0%. They get $20,000 a year from the trust fund that they inherited from whatever relative left it for them, and they're paying 0 taxes on it because it's that $20,000 yearly trust fund, then multiplied by 0. And in order to make this equation work, I'm going to have to expand the boundaries of the sum. So I'm going to take this and say equals sum from the top to C5. And then here, same thing from D to D5. And yeah, man, money made on long-term investments, that first $40,000 isn't taxed. And even after that, the taxes on those next chunks are pretty reasonable. 15 and 20% are lower than the tax brackets on basic income. So this kid, this kid who has a trust fund, right? They are paying an effective tax rate of 5%. They pay a lower tax rate than those other two scenarios because $20,000 of this income is coming from investment.
Wait, Mr. Rob, all you did was for total income, you just added up all three?
Yeah, so total income is equal to sum. And then I just have it go from here to here because if it goes over a blank column or whatever, it'll just read it as a 0 and it won't contribute.
Okay, yeah, got you.
Yeah, and that drives their effective tax rate way down because this chunk has no taxes paid on it, makes the denominator bigger without making the numerator bigger. So yeah, here's what you need to know about it. The more money you make, the more money you pay on the money you make. But just because you go up to another tax bracket, it doesn't magically increase all of the money you made before. So if you were making $160,000 and then you were to make $161,000 the next year, you would move from the 24% tax bracket to the 32% tax bracket, but it's not actually going to make your taxes go up by any significant amount, simply because if you go to 161,000, you're only going $300 into the 32% tax bracket. And as a result, only that $300 will be taxed at 32%. The rest of your money is going to be taxed exactly the same as it was before you got that raise. Are there any questions about marginal tax rate or taxes in general? Because we've had a lot of talk about it this week. I can now just kind of field whatever questions y'all have, or I could do, if you want to come up with like your own scenario, like, hey, how much taxes would I be paying in this combination of values? I could also do that in Excel for you. Do y'all have any questions? No? Is that it? We all know everything about being an adult now? Okay, I guess it does. So just so you know, your homework for this weekend, I just have a couple things because we've been keeping it pretty light. That's fine. Here's what I would like you to do this weekend. So homework for the weekend is going to be pretty straightforward. Number one, I need you guys to update your stocks tomorrow. And then I also need you to upload that spreadsheet. It is going to be called Stock Project Week 2. It'll be going up on Google Classroom, and tomorrow, since we don't have a set class time, you can update your stocks whenever you want, whenever you get up. You could do it right when the market opens. You could do it late at night. I don't care. It won't be due tomorrow until
Mr. Robinson,
after the markets close. I just want y'all to upload it so that I can make sure that everybody's keeping up. Yeah?
what time does the market open?
The market bell, let me double check. I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time.
Eastern, yeah, okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So that means it opens 6:30 a.m. here.
6:30, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, that's why every morning as soon as I get up, it's like a few minutes and then I check my phone and Robinhood's like, hey, you're poor. I'm like, oh, cool. I know, man. And then,
Mr.
yeah.
Rob, should we upload just the last page?
No. All of your whole stock project better be in the same file, but on different sheets, right?
Oh, like
Yeah,
screen
Mr. Rob,
shot.
that's what I was gonna ask too. Like, I have,
Yeah, I did that
I have them
completely.
each saved like individually as like their
Yeah,
own
individual
file.
spreadsheet.
Like, yeah, for each date.
Nope, don't do that. Then you're gonna spend like 10 or 15 minutes copy pasting today. They all need to be in one file.
Oh, yeah.
And no, it's not that hard. It's actually trivial. All you have to do is go to your original file.
You just add
and
file?
not add file, add sheet.
Oh, okay.
So right here, all you do down here in the bottom left corner is you hit the plus and you
Oh.
click add sheet. So you'll have all the sheets down here chronologically. And then all you
Yeah.
have to do from your other files is in them, just hit control. If you just hit control A, it selects the whole sheet, and then control C for copy, and then move it over, and then control V, and it brings over the entire file, including the equations. So you won't have to retype anything. You just need to make one document with all the dates and then copy paste all the individual spreadsheets in.
Wait, so Mr. Op, for turning it in tomorrow, do you want screenshots of each one, or just like not sharing it because we already did that? Like,
Just upload the file. Just take the sheet, upload the sheet, or give me a link to the file. Because when you turn stuff in through Google Classroom, one of the options should be go to my Google Drive, just upload the most updated version of your project.
Oh, okay.
And then it should have dates. Yeah, no problem. It should have dates from 4/14 all the way to 4/24. And I will be going through to make sure that the equations in there are actually equations. I usually go through these boxes to the value ones, and I'm sorry, total value. And I click here to make sure it's actually an equation. And I click here to make sure that it's actually an equation, because that's really the point of this stuff, is so that y'all teach yourselves to use Excel. And if that stuff is not an equation, I will send it back and make you redo it. You should not be calculating these with a calculator and punching them in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. If that's the case, then we would have to manually update it every day, right?
Yeah, and what I'm calling out is the fact that some people are doing that. For some of the people
no,
who
that's
turned
a
in,
wrap.
yeah, for some of the people who turned in the week 1 version of this, when I asked you guys to turn in your initial investment sheets so I could check out what your first bets were, some of those people were just like calculating them with a calculator, I guess, because they didn't pay attention to how I did the equations, or they didn't want to figure it out or whatever reason. Yeah, no, just know that I am grading that. You must do it the way I told you to do it.
Okay.
And the second piece of your homework for the weekend is I would like you all to figure out this marginal tax rate stuff for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a marginal tax rate assignment. That will go up today. All you need to do it is Excel in those 2 links that I posted to that website, NerdWallet, where they have the 2019 marginal tax rates for federal income tax posted. That's all the outside data you need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pose 3 scenarios to you of different types of income that people might have. And all I'm going to ask you to do is to calculate the effective tax rate on them. All of this will be there. And again, we're going to do 3 scenarios. So scenario D, E, and F. And I'm going to come up with 3 different career options, look up some average salaries, and come up with some different income situations. And then it'll be your job to make the same type of spreadsheet to calculate the effective tax rate and turn that in. And then that'll be it for the weekend. And hey, remember back before we did the final, like when we were getting ready for it, you guys gave me a wish list of what stuff you guys wanted to talk about in this portion of the class?
Yeah.
I think we're coming to the end of that wish list, because we did interviews, resumes, scholarships. We did what to do with your taxes, what tax rates are, what it pays for. What else is there to talk about? What else do you guys want to do?
Coffee tutorial.
That's a hard maybe. That's a thing I'm holding for AP Physics, but maybe we could talk about coffee. I mean, this camera is on a swivel, so I could just take it downstairs and turn my kitchen into the world's worst cooking YouTube channel. What else would y'all like to learn about if we don't learn about coffee?
Can we talk about the coronavirus a little?
I mean, we could do that whenever. Like, if you have questions about that stuff right now, I'll answer them. But I wouldn't. That's not a thing that I would like teach about for the sake of lessons, because that stuff is all coming out like fresh. But if you ever have like factual questions that I can answer, I'm glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody was
Do you
asking
think,
a question before I cut him. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, sorry. Do you think it's smart that like other states are already starting to open up right now?
No, those people are making a huge mistake.
It's just going to increase, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you know what? Literally impossible to predict. All that we can do is we can say that within certain statistical margins, like with a plus or minus 5% chance this will happen. But no matter what, those people are setting themselves up for a way worse trajectory than they would have been on if they remained shut. And I think the most important historical example to refer back to about any of this stuff is just look back at the Spanish flu from the 1920s. The Spanish flu killed way more people during its second wave than it did during the first wave, because when the Spanish flu was coming to an end, people were having parades to celebrate the ending of the Spanish-American War. Wait, hold on, don't quote me on that. Let me make sure that's the correct war. Nope, that's not the one. Spanish flu parade. Spanish-American War would have been like 18 years before. Let me see why they were having parades.
For sure.
Yeah, either way, after the first wave of the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918, they were having parades in the summer, which led to a second outbreak in the fall. And that second
I
outbreak,
heard about this. I heard about this.
Yeah. And the second outbreak basically killed twice as many people as the first wave of the outbreak.
Yeah.
So yeah, reopening stuff post pandemic, all it's going to do is lead to second pandemic. Yeah, those states are behaving irresponsibly, and that's not just like my opinion. I believe that's the overall opinion of the greater medical scientific community.
By the way, one more thing. You know how you told me to say what's up to my brother the other day from
Yeah.
you? Yeah, I told him. He says what's up.
Tight, good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all have a nice long weekend.
Wait, Mr. Rob, one more question.
Yep.
For the marginal tax rate project, it's the same format as the examples we did, right? Just different scenarios.
Yeah. I just want you to be able to read those charts, and if you look at the patterns that are there, a lot of the numbers are going to be literally the same. I'm just going to pose 3 more scenarios, D, E, F, of different, like, you make this much money at a job, you're married, you're not married, you have money that's invested, you don't have money that's invested, or whatever, so that you can calculate that stuff and look at it for yourself. Because, just by doing these simple 6 exercises, I guarantee this group will come out on the other side with a better understanding of the federal marginal tax rate than the overwhelming majority of Americans. For most people, doing your taxes literally just means I'm going to get together the stack of papers and hand it to my tax prepper, and then they never actually think about it. You might as well understand how much money you're paying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So should we continue it on the same thing?
So if you put the other 3 examples that we coded together on one sheet, just add 3 more sheets side by side in the same file and just call them D, E, F. And then I'll be posting these 2 assignments. So this one is just, do your update tomorrow and then post it to Classroom, and I'll give you feedback on it. And then this one will go up today as its own topic, where I'll list out the info about DEF, code up that little Excel sheet, and then get it uploaded. This probably won't be due until Monday night.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm assuming like I'm going to have a few questions. Like if I did something wrong, I just want to ask like Monday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'll be able to ask Monday, and then I'll also be posting basically an answer key to it after I collect it so that you can check to see if your work is the same. It's really easy to check though, because it'll be a question of whether or not we end up with the same effective tax rate once you incorporate all the information.
Are we getting graded on if we did it right or wrong?
If you did it wrong, you'll get a chance to fix it, but to get full credit, you'll have to do it right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll
and
get it.
Mr. Rob?
Yep.
If we email you tomorrow, like for when I'm working on the project, if I like have a question, well, you'll respond to the email, right?
Yeah, whenever I get to it. I'm going grocery shopping tomorrow morning,
Yeah, okay.
So whenever I go do that, I never touch my phone until I get home. So if I'm out and about, I won't touch it. And then I'm also delivering groceries to a homie who doesn't have a car, but I'll probably be home tomorrow at like 1 or 2.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so any emails sent to me in the morning, I'll get back to them after I get cleaned up from being outside in the dirty world and eat some lunch or whatever. Anyway,
okay,
y'all have a nice long weekend. If you're in AP Physics, I'll see you in about 25 minutes. Y'all have a real nice weekend. And if you have any questions about like money, investing junk or whatever over the weekend, just write it down on a sticky note and bring it to me, because I'm starting to run out of stuff. I'm going to come up with additional Excel tasks for us to do, just because I want y'all to have a good control of Excel. It'll make college and life easier for you. But yeah, I am stretching here. So anything you want to know about, let me know, and I'll figure out some lessons. Peace.
Thanks, Mr. Rob. Have a good one.
Sure, have a good one.
I think
Bye,
you
Mr.
did.
Rob.